What is up, guys? Welcome to another Kentucky Derby update. I've got Mr. Somich with us here. Oh, doing the magic thing. All right, Somich, I like it already.
Yes!
What?
Playoff hockey. They're playing tonight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Good playoff hockey already starting, but we've got Derby stuff today. Sort of. We got some Preakness stuff, too. All right, Somich, we're going to do a shake first. We got a six-way shake in the Fantasy League. We're going to get that out of the way first, and we'll talk Derby. We got a six-way shake for First Mission. So First Mission, the horse that won the Lexington pretty impressively, earned that 98 buyer, got by Arabian Lion. We'll talk about him in a minute. Let's do the shake first, though. How about it?
That sounds like a plan, man. Just let me know. Let me know when we're gonna lose.
Okay. Well, listen. There's six horses. There's six people that are ready, right? We've got Jared is going to be number one. Magic Mike Show number two. We've got, let's see, we've got Shoddy and Davey, number three, myself, four, John and Ryan, five, Paul, six. Okay. All right. I'm just going to click it so you can see it is producing different numbers every time I click it. All right.
John and Ryan showing off their prowess here. 4 6s.
I was going to say 4 5s and 6s. Y'all just got screwed out of it. All right. So there it is. 1 through 6. I'm going to give one click. Here's the official click. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Do you approve?
I mean, no, but go ahead.
All right, here we go. Here's a click. Number two. You got him.
First time in history. It's been 3 years. We finally won a claim. We're getting good at this now.
The first claim ever by the Magic Mike Show won, and it is First Mission. All right, Somich, give me your thoughts on First Mission.
It's funny because we were talking about this before the show. I'm like a 6 out of 10 on First Mission here. But from just a logical standpoint, you kind of have to claim this horse if you're in the league. You're pretty much guaranteed a Preakness effort, which means 10 points. And then you've got some upside here because, First Mission looked pretty good. I thought it was a nice race from First Mission, was able to stalk the pace and get by Arabian Lion, who had a ton of fight down the lane. And the distance might have gotten to him a little bit, but to me, First Mission, just a horse that makes sense, going to be in the Preakness picture. We'll see how good he is that day. But right now, just a logical horse from a Triple Crown perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing you got to think of is, let's say 2 or 3 horses from the Derby go to the Preakness. Out of the new shooters, so to speak, this is definitely the best new shooter, right? And so if you think, okay, a couple of those horses for the Derby, maybe they're not going to be that good or this or that, whatever. You got First Mission there rested and ready. I think he makes a ton of sense to claim. I thought it was a good race. I'm not as high as, let's say, Jared on First Mission as far as, he's a slam dunk to win the Preakness. I thought he was really good, though, in that race. And I think depending on how the Preakness shapes up, he's got a shot.
Yeah, we could have a really fun Preakness, too, this year. I don't think people are talking about how, let's say somehow Cave Rock does end up there, which I think is a pipe dream at this point, just because we haven't seen the horse. Yeah. But you've got Mandarin Hero, who has said that he's going to be in the Preakness if he misses the Kentucky Derby. We've got First Mission, who's going to be waiting there. It'll be interesting to see if Baffert decides to put Arabian Lion in there after this performance as well. So we should have a fun Preakness here where we get 4 or 5 horses that are legitimate horses that end up in that race if they do end up out of the Derby. Like Instant Coffee, I wouldn't be shocked if we end up seeing in the Preakness as well. Someone who didn't make the Derby gate because of points, but has been one of those horses we've talked about quite a bit through this Triple Crown process.
Boy, Instant Coffee, now that's a name that everybody's forgotten, that everybody said for weeks and weeks, and now it's forgotten. That's an interesting one as well. Yeah, you're going to have horses like that for sure. We'll see. Again, First Mission, I thought, look, I don't know really how to say it. I'm not trying to make a controversy here or anything, but when you have a Baffert horse that fires and that Baffert horse gets beat, it usually takes a pretty good effort to beat him. And I thought Arabian Lion fired a pretty big race, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, especially considering the fractions that First Mission had to run into. I mean, we were all on the live show. I think we all thought Arabian Lion was winning that race around the far turn. I mean, they went 24 and change, 48 and change, able to really look comfortable up front. And the biggest concern you have with these Baffert horses that are on the lead is when they get comfortable, they're incredibly hard to catch down the lane. And I like I said at the start, I think that the distance kind of got to Arabian Lion a little bit. He seems like he's going to be a very good 1-turn, 7-furlong mile type horse, but that stretch out seemed to get to him. And we saw that in the lane where he was, out in the 4-path, 5-path. Irad corrected him over to try and, put a little more pressure on First Mission. And he was just lumbering home a little bit, and First Mission was able to pick it up. But I thought it was a great effort from Arabian Lion, much better than I expected. and a very good effort by First Mission to run him down.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I thought it was interesting. One more little Preakness note here. I'm going to put you on the spot. You probably haven't even looked at this race. The Oaklawn Invitational is no longer the former Oaklawn Invitational is now called the Bathhouse Rose Stakes, which is a terrible name. But anyway, this is a Preakness prep, a field of 9. It's kind of a mess, isn't it, Somich? You've got Red Route 1, you've got Victory Formation, 2 Eagles River, Tap It Shoes. I mean, horses that have been disappointing. Just at a first look, anybody you're interested in for the Preakness out of this group?
I mean, this is like the Boulevard of Broken Dreams race for 3-year-olds. We talk about it all the time with like the 4-year-old allowances and the 5-year-old allowances, where it's a bunch of horses we thought were going to be very good and just weren't. I mean, just quickly looking at this, you look at like Red Route 1, you look at Victory Formation, 2 Eagles River, you look at Tap and Shoes, all horses that I think at one point or another we thought had a shot at making the Derby gate, and here we are running in it's a stakes race, obviously, but trying to point toward the Preakness here. Like, I've always had a soft spot for Tap and Shoes. He's mentally not there yet. We'll see if mentally he can kind of figure it out, because when he does, I think he's going to be a very good horse. Red Route 1 is the favorite. Makes me want to bet this race because Red Route 1 doesn't win. I mean, so if you're going to tell me that Red Route 1 is going to be 2-1, it's probably a good betting race right out of the gate because you can find another direction to go. But this should be an interesting race. You'd need someone to take a pretty big step forward to think they're a threat in the Preakness, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's definitely the Boulevard of Broken Dreams type of race. And yeah, my good friend Victory Formation, who I thought was going to be a really, really good horse, is not, obviously. And so he gets back in this race. We'll see how he runs. It's going to be interesting. You're right. Red Route 1 at 2-1. Now with Rosario aboard. And you got to think, does that mean he's 100 links out of the pace? I don't know.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because that's just your stereotypical, hey, I don't care about breaking. I'm just going to let this horse try and close. And you look at the rest of this race, and it's like, do we think they're going to go 22:45? Because that's probably what Red Route 1 needs to be able to get home. And I don't think they're going to do that. So just a tough spot for Red Route 1, especially on the jockey change. Interesting that you get a couple of these horses with Lasix as well for the first time, too. So Red Route 1, Victory Formation, picking up Lasix here for the first time. Be interesting to see how that affects their efforts as well.
Yeah, that will be an interesting factor to look for as well. It's a fun race. Not, I don't think you got a Preakness winner in this field, but this is, again, if you're thinking about First Mission for the Preakness, well, here are some of the other ones that, a horse or two runs well here. They're probably going to end up in the Preakness. So this is kind of, you're looking at those new shooters. That's kind of what you're going to look at. And oddly enough, Preakness is only a month away. That's the Derby just looms closer and closer. All right, Somich, let's talk Derby. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. Who do you pick for the Derby right now? Pretend everybody gets a perfect post position. Who are you looking at?
If everyone was 10-1, I'd pick Forte. Okay. I think Forte is the best horse in this crop. I feel like he deserves to be the favorite, but we're not going to get a flat 10-1 across the board. And I'm not going to bet Forte at 2-1 either. So the odds on the day will be interesting. I think if you end up with Forte around 3-1, 7-2, there is some value in that number. I'm not sure we get it. The closing number was 5-2 in the final Derby future pool. We're seeing 3-1 overseas, but obviously we're a little bit out. We don't know the post position, so I'm not really willing to tie any type of money up on a 3-1 number weeks out without knowing the rest of the details on it. I'm interested in 2 Phils. I'm interested in Angel of Empire. I mean, those are the horses where I want to see what the prices are going to be before I make a play on them. Hit Show is one, too, that I think has to at least be talked about. The pace in this Derby is going to be really muddied. I'm not sure who's going to make the lead. And because of that, and because of the fact I don't see it being all that quick up front, it makes me want to tend to lean towards some of those horses that should be more forwardly placed. And Hit Show, if you go back and you watch that Wood, not generally the most productive Derby prep, but if you go back and watch that race, draws the 13, he's 5 wide on the first turn, gets bumped out of it, has a ton of trouble down the lane, getting bumped on both sides. Still, I thought ran a pretty good race. He's going to be forwardly placed, as is 2 Phils. I think that gives them an advantage on some of these other horses that may have some more trip trouble because of the lack of speed.
Yep, I think that it makes a lot of sense, and how you try to work out this pace is going to be interesting. And with that, I was going to ask you the next question here that I had that I don't know, I find curious, I guess. Kings Barnes, still no rider, right? Pratt immediately went to Angel of Empire. We're starting to see horses like Raise Cane, who love Raise Cane or hate Raise Cane. He doesn't seem to be coming into the race as sharp as Kings Barnes. Okay, that's how I'll phrase it. He has a rider now. Why hasn't this horse got a rider? What is going on? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I am I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be betting Kings Barnes. I made a case against him yesterday on the Magic Mike show. I've been pretty low on this horse in general. I didn't think the maiden special weight score was all that impressive. I didn't like the fact that Pletcher sent him to Tampa for an N1X. And we talked about this on the show yesterday as well. Pletcher sends the C team to Louisiana. He never sends the A team. And so if you're going to back Kings Barnes, you have to understand you're backing the third best Pletcher in this race, in Pletcher's mind. And if you're okay with that, not going to try and talk you off the horse. He is going to be more forwardly placed, but you're not going to get anything like that Louisiana Derby trip. I mean, they went 114 and change to 6 furlongs. That's the slowest 6 furlongs in any major prep race since the points era. You're going to get a very different trip with him, a different ride with him. And I think Pletcher kind of has shown you, and now the lack of jockeys going to have shown you, he's just not as good as the other two Pletchers. And do you really want to ride the third best Pletcher in the race, or do you want to take a shot with maybe the best Cox like Pratt did with Angel of Empire?
It is really odd. Like to not have anybody commit to him is just strange to me. I don't know. And maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it just seems very strange to me that they don't have a jockey yet for this horse. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm making too much of it. Maybe Derby Day, he has a great jockey and gets a great trip. But I'm kind of with you. It does. If you look at the pattern of Pletcher over the years, that's usually like the third best horse does, or not the third best horse, but a C type of horse, B or C type of horse will go to Louisiana. And you've seen it in the Kentucky Derby. They haven't ran all that well for Pletcher coming out of Louisiana. All right, what's the horse on Derby Day that you're thinking, okay, I could probably bet this horse, and then you look at the odds boards and it's just like, oh, he's just taking way too much money. What's the horse that's going to, or who, I guess, is the horse that's going to get over bet, in your opinion, in this race?
This is a pretty easy answer for me. And it's a horse I think I would be interested in at 15 or 20 to 1 that I'm not going to be able to bet at 6 or 8 to 1, and that's Saratoga. Yeah. I respect the horse. I think that, there's a lot of I think that saying you're not going to use the horse simply because a Japanese horse has never won the Derby is a little short-sighted, because I think a Japanese horse will win the Derby. We've seen that all over the globe over the last 3 years, how well they have done across the board. Their breeding foundation that they've built in their country is phenomenal. You're going to see a winner. The question is when, not if, right? And so I'm not going to dismiss Saratoga just because of the Japan factor. But to me, I'm worried that the hype is just going to get too unreal on some of these horses until someone does it. And I can't take 6 to 1 on a horse where I'm not sure exactly the style he wants to run. I think he wants to be forwardly placed, but those overseas races in Dubai and Saudi Arabia, you don't always know how those are going to translate over from a speed perspective to the US. Those tracks are different than what the US is. To me, Mandarin Hero would have been a little more interesting simply because we got to see him run in the US before, but that was kind of from the B circuit in Japan, not the A circuit. And so I'm going to be more interested in these Japanese horses when we get some U.S. preps into them so we can see them in the U.S. style races before we see them in the Kentucky Derby for the first time. So I just don't see myself getting excited about Saratoga at the odds he's at, even though I think he can win the race.
I speculate that he might be the second choice in the race, because the other thing they did is they brought him over to Churchill Downs early, and that means he's going to get a couple of works before a lot of the horses get a couple of works over the track, or at least one. And I think people are going to see him work and they're going to go nuts, because that's what people do on Derby week, or Derby lead up, I should say, the 2 weeks leading up to the Derby. So I think he's going to have a work. I think he's going to look really good. And I think people are going to bet him. And then, obviously with the Japanese thing also, in Mandarin Hero coming over here and almost winning the Sailing the Derby, there's going to be a lot of talk about him for sure. I wanted to back up because there's a couple of good comments here. Curtis said, Pletcher won all 3 preps with his 3 best horses. That's good spotting. No, absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best of all time at spotting horses to win these Derby preps. So, but I don't think that necessarily means you have to love Kings Barnes because he spotted him well. I think that's where I'm at. What about you?
I think that he tips his hand when he spots horses. Right. His best horse goes in the Florida Derby. Right. Then he sends his next best horse usually to Arkansas. And then his third best horse goes to Louisiana. And that's feels like it's exactly what happened here. Except it's so you're seeing Tapit Trice run in the Keeneland / Louisiana circuits. That's where his next / Oakland circuit. That's where his next best horse goes. Yeah. Right. That's where Pletcher ends up with the 2 slot. If you look back at his winners who have won the Louisiana Derby, they consistently finish in the bottom 5 of the Kentucky Derby. And his winners of the Kentucky Derby are coming out of Florida. So I agree that it's spotted well. I think this is more of a knock against the other horses that were in the Louisiana Derby. And you saw Disarm run second there. he's going to be a long shot to say the least, at the Kentucky Derby. And so you're in one of these situations where, yeah, the spotting was excellent, but that doesn't mean that this horse is excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on it 100%. And I again, you look at his 2 Kentucky Derby winners. It was Always Dreaming, of course, came out of Florida, and then it was Super Saver, who came out. He was in Florida, then he went up to run in the Arkansas Derby. But you also have to look at Super Saver. It was a kind of a flukish Derby, right? He loved Churchill Downs. He loved the slop. It rained like crazy at Churchill Downs. He caught the perfect situation, but he really wasn't like this monster of a horse. And so that's why he was in Arkansas, or, like you said, recently with the Bluegrass, or even Louisiana Derby. Those aren't the number ones for sure. So, and listen, Tapit Trice even kind of fits that bill. I think he is the number 2 horse on that Pletcher roster, but I also think he's getting better and better. You can say that about Kingsbarns as well, and that's why they all 3 become a little bit interesting in here. Let me see if I can find it. So on the Kingsbarn subject, or other subject, you kind of killed it. Well, not kind of. You did kill it with Medina Spirit, right? The year he won. And, well, he won for the bettors, at least. And you did it. You picked him because of the situation of the pace. I think it's similar this year. Are you in a situation right now where you're trying to just find that Medina Spirit type?
It's odd because 2 weeks out, I don't know who's going to set the pace. Like I've got to do some work here to grind into, okay, who is going to be the pace setter in this spot? Because you go through the list of the 20 horses, and specifically the horses at the top of it, they want to be sitting 5 to 8 lengths off the lead. They want to be sitting in that middle pack. And we have a couple Japanese horses, which really messed the pace up last year. I don't expect that same meltdown this year. I don't think you're going to see that same 22-46 fastest pace Kentucky Derby history type thing again this year that we saw last year. So if I can figure out who's in front, it makes a big difference. The problem is like Kingsbarns, who I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's going to be forwardly placed. He's going to be right out there. Mm-hmm. Are we sure? Are we sure he's going to be the first one in the lead? Because now I agree he'll be the most forwardly placed Pletcher.
Yeah.
But he led the Louisiana Derby by default. No one else wanted the lead, and he crawled through that. He wasn't in the lead in either of his other 2 races, or he wasn't the lead in his maiden special weight. The allowance, I think he kind of just inherited because those horses were freaking awful. Mikey Bananas ran second, who is a 5-year-old lifelong Florida Claimer horse, right? Yeah. So when you go through these fields, you're like, man, I don't know who's going to be in the lead. And that year, Medina Spirit was very easy to pick out as a speed horse.
Yep.
This year, I don't see that same horse just jumping off the board at me saying, hey, this is going to be your leader at the quarter pole, at the half mile pole. That's something I got to figure out in the next couple of weeks, because that's definitely going to affect the handicap.
Yeah, and people are right to assume that Kingsbarns will be around the front. Like I said, he may or may not be on the lead, but he will be around. He's one of the candidates for sure.
Yep.
The more I watch Derma Sotogake, I kind of think he might be on the lead. Like he has the ability to do it as well, but he's kind of like Kingsbarns in a way. He doesn't have to have it. He's not a burner, right? So it's really, really going to be interesting. Curtis says reincarnate. I mean,
maybe
he's definitely a candidate, but I don't know if you take him serious or not, even if he is,
Steve mentions Wild on Ice, maybe a candidate as well. Came from a little bit off it last time at Sunland. The paces are generally hotter at Sunland. You don't see that translate over, so don't fall in love with the first half mile time and think that Wild on Ice can do that on another track.
Yeah.
Mage has to be at least mentioned. Has not braked well, but has the speed to be there if he does brake well. So this is the other part of this being murky, is that the horses that you could project have had issues with getting to the front. And so it's why this pace is going to be one of the more interesting ones to dissect in the recent Derby memory.
Mage is definitely one that if for whatever reason decides I'll get out of the gate a little bit faster in this race, he's got the ability to be maybe faster than all of them. Can we see him? Like,
we're still waiting to hear a jockey on Mage as well.
I know.
Yeah. On moving off. It'll be interesting to see if they go with, like, I realize it sounds crazy. Do you just put a bug on Mage? Do you just put someone who breaks really well on Mage and just say, hey, we're going to try and go to the front? I mean, so the jockey selection there, I think, is going to be interesting. And obviously, you pull up Cycle and Mischief, another one that'll be involved.
Yeah, again, if he gets in, he's got to have 2 defections. I mean, we can assume there probably will be 2, but you never know for sure. Usually there are defections. I think Cyclone Mischief has got just enough points to get in. He'll probably be involved. There's no doubt about it. I'm with Curtis. Go Rocket Ride, I think would be tough if he was in this race and on the lead.
It might have been my pick if he went gate to wire. It's insanity. Yeah. I think this horse because look, he has the speed. We saw him progress well in the first time around 2 turns. He had a tough trip that day as well. So Go Rocket Ride would have been in the conversation to win the Derby had he been able to participate in the Santa Anita Derby.
Yeah. And again, talk about another horse that's not here. How good would a horse like Arabian Night look if he was on the lead in this race? Probably look pretty good as well. So it definitely is a situation where if there was a speed horse that could hold speed that we have seen, it certainly would set up very, very well, at least on paper, for this race. So we'll see. All right. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
As the draftees of Cave Rock, I'm disappointed he's not here because this would be the year he could go gate to wire too.
He's another one. Yeah, Cave Rock would be one we haven't mentioned, but has the speed, could go gate to wire. And it's weird. A lot of these horses, whether, Loggins, Extra Neho, Cave Rock, they got hurt early. And then some of the other ones, the speed that was starting to develop, they either kind of fell apart or they got hurt late into the game. And so now you're kind of falling into this situation where it's there for somebody, but you don't have that one that you feel good about. Even with Medina Spirit, he had been a tough horse. He had been getting firsts and seconds and battling his ass off. You just don't have that. You've got a lightly raced Kings Barnes. You got a Japanese horse, and then you've got horses that do have some flaws. So, yeah, we'll see what happens here. Dennis says before we sign out, how about hockey? You got one hockey play tonight, Somich?
I mean, I like Colorado in the series. I have them -1.5 against the Kraken tonight. I think they take care of business at home. Really disappointed in the Oilers last night. I'm not sure if you watched that late game, but giving up a 3-1 lead and then not being able to get the job done in overtime, I thought that was a very much, hey, look, we're still the old Oilers. We're not the Oilers that everyone is projecting here. So disappointed to see that go down. We'll see how they respond in game 2. Yeah. Boston looked great too. I don't know if you watched that one, but they looked phenomenal. And I think the Islanders are live in that Carolina series. Timely goals are going to make a big difference in that one. You're not going to see any blowouts, and that's the kind of series the Islanders can win.
Yeah, I like it. I think you're right on that one. I had the Wild to win last night at plus money. Did not stay awake for all of it. Did see him tie the game, but double overtime win for the Wild. So big one there. You want
to know my biggest bet of the first round?
Let's hear it.
Toronto Maple Leafs -145 in the series.
They should.
I'm bucking the trend, baby. I think this number should be like -190, -180, and I think that the names on the front of the jerseys is affecting the price on the board because you have a team in Tampa that has been there 3 years in a row to the Stanley Cup Finals. Everyone knows about them, believes in this playoff mojo. On the other side, Toronto can't get out of the first round. Everyone believes in the playoff flaws there. Mm-hmm. I think you're getting a significantly better price because the name's on the front of the jersey in this spot.
Well, yeah, if you look at the analytics, Toronto should, and I'll say it again, should win that series pretty easily. They're a better team this year for sure. So I like that one as well. I think if you want the plus money upset tonight, take a hard look at the Winnipeg Jets. I think, you're getting about plus 125, I think last time I saw. I like the Knights to win the series. I think it'll be a tough, grinded out type of series. So I kind of like Winnipeg plus money on the money line. I do like under 1.5 goals first period. I know we play those a lot. I like that a lot for that Jets Knights game.
I sprinkled on the Jets at plus 165 in the series. It's down to plus 140. Look, what do we know about NHL playoffs? You got to have the better goaltender. And in this case, the Jets clearly have the better goaltender in Connor Hellebuck. And so I think he could steal a game or two in this series. So I don't hate the idea of playing them at a plus number.
Yep. I think the Jets will be pesky for sure. I think that's going 6 or 7 games. I think that's going to be an absolute war. Same with that Wild Dallas series. It's going 6 or 7. Wouldn't be surprised if the Wild get it done. All right, we're going to sign off here for now. I think we've covered it. Once we get into the hockey talk, it's time to go, Somich. So, all right, we will be back. I'm guessing there's going to be so much content between now and then. I'm not even going to hype anything up.
It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, just get on the YouTube channel. There'll be something new up every time you come. That's what I'm going to say. So, all right, guys, we will see you tomorrow for Dudes Who Bet Daily.
RacingDudes.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track across the country. We're ramping up for the 2023 Kentucky Derby, and we want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to Racing Dudes YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.